When Miss Emily Grierson died, our whole town went to her funeral. The men, through a sort of respectful action for a fallen monument. The women, mostly out of curiosity to see the inside of her house, which no one, save an old manservant, a combined gardener and cook, had seen in at least 10 years. It was a big, squarish frame house that had once been white, decorated with cupolas and spires and scrolled balconies in the heavy, lightsome style of the 70s. It was set on what had once been our most select street, but garages and cotton gins had encroached and obliterated even the most august names of that neighborhood. Only Miss Emily's house was left, lifting its stubborn and coquettish decay above the cotton wagons and the gasoline pumps, an eyesore among eyesores. After her father's death, she went out very little. After her sweetheart went away, people hardly saw her at all. A few of the ladies had the temerity to call, but were not received, and the only sign of life about the place was the Negro man, a young man then, going in and out with a market basket. "Just as if any man, could keep a house clean," the ladies said, so they were not surprised when the smell developed. It was another link between the gross, teeming world and the high and mighty Griersons. "We really must do something about it, Judge. I'd be the last one to bother Miss Emily, but we've got to do something. I mean, it's simple enough. Send her word to have her place cleaned up. Give her a certain time to do it, and if she don't—" "Damn it, sir, will you accuse a lady to her face of smelling bad?" So the next night, the men crossed Miss Emily's lawn and slunk about the house like burglars, sniffing across the base of the brickwork and at the cellar openings, while one of them performed a regular sewing motion with his hand out of a sack slung from over his shoulder. They broke open the cellar door and sprinkled lime there and in all the outbuildings. They crept quietly across the lawn and into the shadow of the locusts that lined the street. After a week or two, the smell went away. After her father died, it got about that the house was all that was left to her, and in a way, people were glad. At last, they could pity Miss Emily. Being left alone, and a pauper, she had become humanized. Now she, too, would know the old thrill and the old despair of a penny more or less. The town had just let the contracts for paving the sidewalks, and in the summer after her father's death, they began the work. The construction company came with a foreman named Homer Barron, a Yankee, a big, dark, ruddy man with a big voice and eyes lighter than his face. Whenever you heard a lot of laughing about the square, Homer Barron would be in the center of the group. Presently, we began to see him and Miss Emily on Sunday afternoons, driving in the yellow-wheeled buggy and the matched team of bays from the livery stable. She carried her head high enough, even when we believed that she had fallen. It was as if she demanded more than ever the recognition of her dignity as the last Grierson, as if it had wanted the touch of earthliness to reaffirm her imperviousness. Like when she bought the rat poison, the arsenic. That was over a year after they had begun to say, "Poor Emily," and while the two female cousins were visiting her. "I want some poison." "Well, yes, Miss Emily. What kind? For rats and such? I'd recommend—" "I want the best you have. I don't care what kind." "Well, these'll kill anything up to an elephant. But what you want is—" "Arsenic. Is that a good kind?" Is arsenic—" "Well, yes, ma'am. But what you want—" "I want arsenic." "Why, of course, if that's what you want. But the law requires you to tell what you are going to use it for." Miss Emily just stared at him, her head tilted back in order to look him eye for eye, until he looked away and went and got the arsenic and wrapped it up. When she opened the package at home, there was written on the box, under the skull and bones, "For rats." So the next day we all said, "She will kill herself," and we said it would be the best thing. When she had first begun to see Homer Barron, we had said, "She will marry him." Then we said, "She will persuade him yet," because Homer himself had remarked, He liked men, and it was known that he drank with the younger men in the Elks Club, that he was not a marrying man. Then we were sure that they were to be married. We learned that Miss Emily had been to the jeweler's and ordered a man's toilet set in silver, with the letters H.B. on each piece. 2 days later, we learned that she had bought a complete outfit of men's clothing, including a nightshirt. Sure enough, after another week they departed, and as we had expected all along, within 3 days, Homer Barron was back in town. A neighbor saw the Negro man and met him at the kitchen door at dusk one evening. That was the last we ever saw of Homer Barron. The Negro man went in and out with the market basket, but the front door remained closed. Miss Emily was rarely seen after her lover left her. For about 6 or 7 years, she gave china painting lessons, but eventually the kids grew up and no new ones replaced them. Her doors shut for good after that. And so, finally, she died. Fell ill in the house filled with dust and shadows, with only a doddering Negro man to wait on her. We did not even know she was sick. We had long since given up trying to get any information from the Negro. He talked to no one, probably not even to her, for his voice had grown harsh and rusty, as if from disuse. She died in one of the downstairs rooms, in a heavy walnut bed with a curtain, her gray head propped on a pillow, yellow and moldy with age and lack of sunlight. The Negro met the first of the ladies at the front door and let them in, and then he disappeared. He walked right through the house and out the back and was not seen again. Already we knew that there was one room in that region above the stairs which no one had seen in 40 years, and which would have to be forced. They waited until Miss Emily was decently in the ground before they opened it. The man himself lay in the bed. For a long time we just stood there, looking down at the profound and fleshless grin. The body had apparently once lain in the attitude of an embrace, but now the long sleep that outlasts love, that conquers even the grimace of love, had taken him. What was left of him, rotted beneath what was left of the nightshirt, had become inextractable from the bed in which he lay, and upon him, and upon the pillow beside him, lay that even coating of the patient and biting dust. Then we noticed that in the second pillow was the indentation of a head. One of us lifted something from it, and leaning forward, that faint and invisible dust, dry and acrid in the nostrils, we saw a long strand of iron-gray hair.